was Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. Truly the stunning beauty history remembers her as. What if I told you the truth is far more complex and much, much darker? For centuries, we've been captivated by her image as a seductive queen, a woman of unparalleled charm. But the coins minted during her reign tell a very different story. They show a woman with a prominent nose, a receding chin, and a rather plain appearance. So, if she wasn't a classic beauty, how did she captivate two of the most powerful men in the world, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony? The secret wasn't in her face, but in her mind, her voice, and a dark family legacy that shaped her entire existence. Let's uncover the shocking truth behind the legend of Cleopatra.
Welcome back to the Untold Crypt. Look, we don't just tell stories here. We crack open the forbidden vaults of history that the world was meant to forget. If you're hooked on secret history, bone-chilling mysteries, and mind-bending science facts, you're in the right place. Do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button and join the inner circle so you never miss a deep dive into the unknown. Smash that like button if you're ready to dig deep now.
To understand Cleopatra, you have to understand her family, the Ptolemies. They weren't Egyptian at all. They were Greek Macedonians who took control of Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. For nearly 300 years, they ruled with an iron fist, but they had a deeply disturbing tradition to keep their bloodline pure. They married their own siblings. Generation after generation, brother married sister, uncle married niece. This wasn't just a royal custom. It was a state policy. Cleopatra's own parents were likely brother and sister. And when she came to power, she too was married off to her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. This rampant inbreeding had devastating consequences, creating a dynasty riddled with power, struggles, paranoia, and murder. It was a family where siblings were rivals, and the throne was often won through bloodshed. Imagine growing up in that environment. Cleopatra wasn't just born into royalty. She was born into a centuries-old web of intrigue and betrayal. This was the world that forged her, a world where survival depended not on beauty, but on ruthless intelligence and a will to dominate. And this is where the story takes its first major twist. The inbreeding that defined her family also likely left a physical mark. Modern genetic studies on royal families who practiced inbreeding, like the Habsburgs of Europe, reveal a host of genetic disorders. We see issues like the famous Habsburg jaw, hormonal imbalances, and other health problems. While we can't test Cleopatra's DNA, it's highly probable that she and her family suffered from similar conditions. Historians have noted that many Ptolemies were described as obese, and some speculate they may have suffered from endocrine disorders. So, the idealized image of Cleopatra we see in movies, it's almost certainly a complete fabrication. The reality was likely a woman whose appearance was shaped by generations of genetic mutation. Her power didn't come from a flawless physique. It came from something far more potent. The Roman historian Plutarch, who wrote about her extensively, gives us the biggest clue. He said her actual beauty was not in itself so remarkable, but it was her conversation that was irresistible. He described her voice as being like a multi-stringed instrument, able to switch between languages effortlessly. Cleopatra was a linguistic genius. She was the first Ptolemaic ruler in 300 years to actually bother learning the Egyptian language. She also spoke Greek, Ethiopian, Hebrew, Arabic, and several other languages. Imagine the diplomatic power this gave her. She could speak directly to foreign ambassadors, soldiers, and her own people without needing a translator. This wasn't just a skill, it was a weapon. She combined this with a formidable intellect, being well versed in mathematics, philosophy, and astronomy. When she met Caesar and Antony, they weren't just meeting a queen. They were meeting their intellectual equal, a charismatic polymath who could charm, persuade, and strategize with the best of them. Her allure wasn't skin deep. It was rooted in her brilliant mind and captivating presence. She manufactured her own legend, but the dark legacy of her family didn't stop with genetics. It fueled a relentless cycle of violence. Cleopatra's rise to power was anything but smooth. She was co-ruler with her 10-year-old brother-husband, Ptolemy XIII, but the court advisors who controlled him quickly exiled her. This is where her famous gamble comes in. She had herself smuggled back into the palace in Alexandria, rolled up in a carpet, and delivered directly to Julius Caesar. This audacious move won her Caesar's support. A civil war erupted. Her brother drowned in the Nile, and Cleopatra, with Rome's backing, was back on the throne. But the bloodshed wasn't over. To secure her power and the future of her son with Caesar, Caesarion, she had her younger sister Arsinoe executed on the steps of a temple. It was a brutal, shocking act, even for the time. She eliminated every single rival, including another brother, to ensure her absolute control. She learned the family business of survival all too well. After Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra found a new ally and lover in Mark Antony. Their partnership was both a passionate romance and a powerful political alliance. Together, they dreamed of a new Eastern Empire ruled from Alexandria. But their ambition put them on a collision course with Caesar's heir, Octavian, in Rome. The propaganda war was vicious. Octavian painted Cleopatra as a decadent foreign sorceress who had bewitched Antony, a threat to Roman values. The final showdown came at the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC. In a disastrous turn of events, Cleopatra and Antony's forces were defeated. They fled back to Egypt, with Octavian's legions in hot pursuit. The end was near. Here, in their final days, the story becomes a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. As Octavian's army closed in on Alexandria, a false report reached Antony that Cleopatra was dead. Devastated, he fell on his sword. But the wound wasn't immediately fatal. Dying, he was carried to the mausoleum where Cleopatra had barricaded herself. He died in her arms. Left alone, Cleopatra knew her fate. She would be captured and paraded through the streets of Rome in Octavian's triumph. An ultimate humiliation she refused to endure. According to the legend, she had a poisonous asp, a type of cobra and a symbol of Egyptian royalty, smuggled to her in a basket of figs. She died from its bite, a defiant queen to the very end. She was 39 years old. Octavian, despite his victory, was reportedly frustrated. He had wanted her alive. He did, however, honor her last wish, to be buried alongside Mark Antony. And this brings us to the greatest mystery of all. Where is she? For 2,000 years, historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters have searched for the lost tomb of Cleopatra and Antony. Ancient writers described it as a grand and beautiful monument located near the Temple of Isis in Alexandria. But centuries of earthquakes and the rising sea level have completely submerged the ancient royal quarter of the city. We've found sunken palaces and statues, but the tomb itself remains elusive. There's another compelling theory, though. Some archaeologists believe she might be buried about 30 miles outside Alexandria, at a temple site called Toposiris Magna. Excavations there have uncovered a necropolis with Greco-Roman style mummies, coins bearing Cleopatra's face, and shafts that could potentially lead to a royal tomb. The lead archaeologist, Kathleen Martinez, is convinced this is the spot. She argues Cleopatra, a master of symbolism, would have arranged to be buried near a temple of Isis, the goddess she modeled herself after. Finding this tomb would be the biggest archaeological discovery since King Tut. It would not only give us priceless treasures, but could finally reveal the truth about her life, her death, and maybe even her appearance through DNA. So, the image of Cleopatra as a simple seductress is a profound disservice to one of history's most complex and capable rulers. She wasn't just beautiful or charming. She was a ruthless, multilingual, intellectual powerhouse who navigated a world of violence and betrayal from birth. She used her mind as her primary weapon, her voice as her tool of enchantment, and her political cunning to hold power for over 2 decades against the might of Rome. She was a product of a dark genetic and political legacy, but she rose above it to become a legend. The search for her tomb continues, and with it, the hope that one day we will finally be able to look past the myth and understand the true woman, the last pharaoh of Egypt. The dark truth is that her story is far more fascinating than any Hollywood fiction. Thanks for watching. If you were fascinated by this journey into the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Let me know in the comments where you think Cleopatra's tomb is hidden. See you next time.